Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto had been raised by Kakashi his entire life and how would raising Naruto change Kakashi's life as well? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 1, Light in the Darkness. It was October 10th and it would forever be known as the darkest day in the history of the ninja village of the Hidden Leaf. It was the day the dreaded nine-tailed fox demon attacked their land and their village. It was a huge monster, its red chakra could be seen and felt by people over a mile away. The ninjas that survived the battle would still be able to tell how they could feel the killer intent of the giant fox demon, how it felt like a giant weight crushing them. But they had to protect their village and so they fought on. Many died in that battle, attacks against the demon were brushed aside as though they were nothing, scores of ninjas died when it counter-attacked. It was a pure nightmare, that battle that night. Many thought that it was the end of things. That they would all die and then it would go on and attack their village, killing everyone they held dear. But it was their leader, the fourth Hokage, a man named Minato Namikaze, that ended it all. There was only one thing he could do. At that moment he stood on the mountain looking over the battle. He held a small bundle in his arms. The man was tall with yellow spike hair and blue eyes as he looked on with a great sadness in his heart. The bundle in his arms moved and he looked down and smiled at the little boy that had just been born. "I'm sorry Naruto, I have no choice. I have to save the village and there is only one technique I know of that will do it." He smiled at the young boy and his heart broke knowing this was the only time he would ever hold his son like this. "You deserve more than this, my son, you deserve to live with your family." He closed his eyes. The mother of his child, Kushina Uzumaki, the greatest love of his life, had died in childbirth. She had suffered an injury in the attack and went into labor. But it was difficult and she had lost too much blood. All the medical nins were at the front line and so he had been there for his love before she had died with their son in her arms. He placed a tarp over her body. She was still back there in his personal quarters. He couldn't leave her side even at a time like this, but she was gone now and a large part of his heart went with her. They hadn't even been officially married since the Dem Council didn't approve of him marrying someone outside of their village. But he still loved her and she loved him. They had stayed together and had to keep his relationship a secret. Only a trusted few like his old sensei Jiraiya, his last student Kakashi, and the previous Hokage. But now he had to make yet another sacrifice. He had left a note for those closest to him in his chambers. And he had one on his persons just in case, but tonight was the night he knew he was going to die. There was an odd piece to it. In a way he would see his beloved again, but he didn't want to leave this life. He loved his village and the people and he wanted to see his son grow up. He felt the stings in his eyes as his tears started to fall, how he wanted to see little Naruto grow up. But he was Hokage, he had to protect the village and his duty outweighed what he wanted in life. He just hoped that Naruto would one day forgive him and understand why he had to leave him. He had left one of his tags he used for his flaying thunder god technique, something he used that teleported him around, the same technique that earned him the name the Yellow Flash. In an instant he was transported across the area. He could hear the battle going on as he appeared among his people. "Hokage!" A few cried out. "Keep the line. I want you to try and keep it still," he ordered out. Ninjas went out to surround the beast, which wasn't an easy task. He felt the presence of an old friend behind him. "So finally here, how is she?" He turned to see the Toad Sage Jiraiya there. He had arrived just in time to help things out. Next to him he could see Sarutobi with him. Even though retired as Hokage, the old man was still here in his black and grey battle armor fighting as well. There was no surprise in that, but they saw the look on the young man's face and both older men felt that something horrible happened. "She's gone." It was the only thing he could say to them. Both men felt sorrow for him. They knew just how much he loved her and how much pain he had to be in. Then he surprised them both by smiling a little and turned to show them the bundle. "This is my son, Naruto. Sarutobi gave a small smile at the sight of the young boy. He already could see that the boy looked like his father. But Jiraiya frowned. He knew his student well and he knew that something was wrong. "Tell me, why did you bring your infant child here? What do you have planned?" The Hokage smiled, although there was no humor in it. "I knew you'd figured out I had something planned, old perv. There is a way to save the day, but I need my son's help." He reached into his clothing and pulled out a sealed letter. "Please come and find us when it's over, and you'll find another in my chamber. There is one of my sons when he's old enough that I want him to read. Also tell Kakashi I'm sorry, he's lost so much and I hate for him to lose another precious person in his life." Jiraiya took the note with hard eyes. He knew what the boy had planned, or at least an idea. He didn't want him to go. Hell, he was an inch from beating the hell out of him and forcing him not to go. But before he could object, he was gone thanks to that damn technique of his. The older man looked at the letter and felt his sensei next to him. He looked at the older man's face and he could see that he knew as well. "I hate this," was the only thing the Toad Sage could say. "So do I," Sarutobi said to his old student. He wished Tsunade was here as well, but she had left the village and he wasn't sure where she was these days. It was only luck that Jiraiya had been wandering close enough to get here. Now he was seeing that young man go out there, and for the last time. If the night had been raining, it would have set the dark mood perfectly. Later, Kakashi Hatake was a very young man and yet had already reached the level of Jonin. He had a large white hair that always seemed to stand up, defying gravity. He was sitting with his back to a tree, breathing hard. Not long ago the demon had been defeated. It was said that the fourth had arrived and somehow defeated it. He smiled at the thought of his sensei being able to defeat such a monster. He looked around with his one eye over the carnage. Bodies were everywhere. People cried out in pain, some as they were dying. Medical nins were doing their best, but there were just so many people injured and dying. Kakashi himself felt a few blows, nothing lethal, but he needed some rest. He wished he could block out the sounds though. He felt a split lip under his mask too. He sighed at that. It was one of the problems of always wearing a mask. He didn't have to, of course, but it was just his style. Hell, no one knew what he looked like since he had worn one as far back as people could remember. He looked again with his eye that wasn't covered by his headband over the field. There would be many people that would lose their precious people today. It reminded him of his own losses, his father who committed suicide to atone for his dishonor, his mother, and worse, his friends. First Obito, who died on his first mission in the war. He had lost his eye on that mission and Obito had asked Rin, their medic, to implant one of his into Kakashi. Then not long after, Rin was lost to him as well. It just seemed that everyone he loved or cared for was taken from him in life. The only one he had left really was his sensei, the new Hokage, and his wife. Well, technically not, but he knew that she was wife and everything but name. He was glad that his teacher and mentor had found a woman like her and were having a child soon. It seemed in even all this death there was at least something to look forward to. He had been so engrossed he actually missed the umbu that landed next to him until he actually hit the ground. "Kakashi Hatake, you are to report to the Hokage Tower." "Oh man, I was just resting too," he grunted with the effort to get him. "Do you need assistance?" the masked ninja asked. "No, I'm fine, just needed to catch my second wind is all." He waved it off as he made his way to the tower. It was a long way for him, but he eventually made it to the large building under the mountain with the faces of the Hokages on them. He climbed the steps, not surprised that there were no guards. Everyone had been pulled off their usual duties for the demon. He found the office of the Hokage and opened them up, but he was a bit confused to see not the Hokage but the previous Hokage there along with his sensei's teacher. Both of them had on looks on their faces that suddenly make Kakashi's stomach twist in on itself. "Sarutobi-sama, Jiraiya-sama, I was expected Hokage-sama to be here," he said as he walked over to them. It was then he noticed that there was a sleeping form in Sarutobi's arms. "I'm afraid that the Hokage, I'm sorry Kakashi, he's dead." Sarutobi hung his head. Kakashi felt like he was crushed under those boulders all over again on the mission that had killed Obito. The last precious person he had in his life was gone. He felt hollow inside and very alone in the world. He hadn't felt like this since his father's death. He nearly fell to his knees, but he tried to keep on a brave face in front of his elders. But it was hard, so very hard. He just wanted to sink to his knees and cry out his pain to the heavens. Why? Why him? Why must everyone I get close to die? He thought to himself and didn't notice how the old toad sage walked up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. I know, boy, I know how you feel. I loved the kid like a son, he deserved better than this. But it was his choice and the only way to stop the demon. Jiraiya told him. How? Kakashi asked, not looking at the older man. As far as we can tell, he used a forbidden art that sealed the demon into a host body. It will imprison the demon for all time, but the cost to balance such a technique out requires the person performing it to sacrifice their own life. Sarutobi explained and walked over to the young man. This is Naruto, the Hokage's son. He used him to seal away the demon. He showed the snow-haired young man the child. Kakashi looked and he could see the resemblance. The yellow hair and blue eyes were very alike. Although it was strange seeing what looked like whisker marks on his face. The young boy looked up at him with curious blue eyes. Kakashi actually grinned a bit. His teacher would have been a great father and he knew that the man had been looking forward to this. But what of? He trailed off asking about the mother, but the looks he got told him all that he needed. I'm sorry, she died giving birth. When the demon attacked, she had been injured, and with the birth, it was just too much for her body. Jiraiya told him. There is a letter for you here, he made one out to you to read. Sarutobi pointed with a free hand to the desk. Kakashi walked slowly towards it. It was strange not seeing his sensei there behind the desk. Images came to his mind of seeing him there working, how he seemed to smile a lot at him, giving him his missions or just talking to him. He saw the picture there of him and his original team, and then of his sensei's team when he was a kid. He knew there was a picture of his lover in his desk drawer as well. It just seemed like a very bad dream, one that he wanted to wake up from. That he was still alive and he would see him tomorrow. But as he picked up the letter, he knew deep down that he was just being stupid. He was gone. He opened the letter and read what was on there. Hello Kakashi, I know by now you're reading this and you know what happened. I'm sorry to leave you, I know you've lost so much in your life and I wish I didn't have to. But as Hokage I had to put the lives of my people above my own life and happiness. There is so much I could tell you, you were always the brightest student I had and I know you'll do me and the village proud. In fact, I'm already very proud of you. You were like a son to me, just like how Obito and Rin were like my own children. When we lost them, I felt like I had failed as a teacher. I was always afraid that I would lose you next, but it seems that you'll outlive me after all. Sorry, stupid to make a joke here, but I had to do something to lighten the mood, right? Kakashi, I want you to know that I'll always watch over you, but I want you to do me a favor. Please, I trust you to keep an eye on my son Naruto. He'll have a large burden placed on him as the jailer for the demon, and I wanted him to be seen as a hero for his duty. Please watch over him from time to time. I think I can rest peacefully knowing that you will keep an eye out for him. I have to go, I can see that Fox is already near the walls. Please live well, my student. Kakashi read it over a few times, trying to memorize each word into his mind. By the end he felt the tears fall from his uncovered eye. He hung his head as he closed his eye, trying to not break down at the moment. Meanwhile, Sarutobi and Jiraiya were talking about what to do with Naruto. I'm not sure about this. Jiraiya said to his old mentor. I mean, you honestly want to tell the entire village that this boy holds the demon in his gut? He asked him. It was his wish, and he is the son of the Hokage. He said to his student. Look, I know you have faith in people and all, but look at what just happened out there. I honestly don't think people will react well to this. Hell, they might see the child as only a monster to be killed. The Toad Sage. I do have faith in the people of this village. Like you did with Orochimaru. Jiraiya said coldly. Sarutobi's head came back as if he had been visibly struck. Then he cast his look down and Jiraiya knew he hit the right place to prove his point. Hell, Orochimaru had been his teammate as a kid, he had been the genius, Tsunade the woman who was known as revolutionizing the medical ninja corps, and himself. Well, not the most well-known, he pulled his own weight as a master of seals. He had never really liked Orochimaru, and when he went bad it was no surprise to him, although he still felt betrayed. That bastard had experimented on his own people, the people he swore to protect, and when Sarutobi went after him, he had let him go in a moment of weakness. Sarutobi himself knew of that failure. He had honestly not seen the signs, although they had been there. He had seen how angry he had been when he hadn't named Orochimaru as Hokage after him. But he never thought that his own student would go to such evil lengths. Looking down at the child, he wondered if he was making another misjudgment. He should be put in a safe place. His father had lots of enemies and they would love nothing more than to kill his son. Maybe put him into an orphanage. With all the death out there, it could be easy to say that his parents were killed in the battle. Lord knows how man orphans were made today anyway. Jiraiya muttered to himself. No. Both men turned to see Kakashi looking at them. They had forgotten that the boy had been there the entire time. I'll take him in. Jiraiya was the first to object. What? Kid, you're still a kid yourself, you can't possibly dash. I will, Kakashi said in an even tone. He is my sensei's son, he asked me to look out for him. He gave me so much in life, this is the least I can do to honor him. Kakashi meant his words. The little boy was the last living link to his sensei, someone who had been the only father figure in his life after his father's death. Looking after his son was the least he could do to honor the man, and besides, the thought of the Hokage's son living in some orphanage was not something he could bear. The boy deserved more than that, he was sure of it. Kid, this won't be easy, plus with taking care of him, how will you deal when you have to go on missions? Jiraiya asked him, crossing his arms. I'll do what I can, and I could leave him in the care of certain services if I need to take missions for cash, but I've saved up a lot besides what I have in my family holdings as well. The young man said. You really going to let this kid go through with this? Jiraiya asked the old Hokage. He looked down at the child who had fallen asleep, and then to the young man. He knew all too well of Kakashi's life story, and he was surprised the young man would take up such a responsibility. But maybe it would be better than just an orphanage for the young boy. There would already be too many children without parents tonight. Perhaps I could use you on the Umbu teams. I'll need more to fill in spots for at least a few years. It will keep you close, and although they don't have the pay for A or S class missions, they will afford you a bit of an easier time. Until that is, Naruto is a bit older and you can go back to going out on missions. Sarutobi also knew that Kakashi was well on his way to Umbu anyway, but this would help in both matters. With so many of their own dead, their village would need more security in case other villages wanted to take advantage of it. Jiraiya gave a small grunt. No one was sure if he was for or against it, but it seemed like Kakashi wouldn't move on the subject. You truly do want to do this, then you can try, but remember this might be a lot more difficult than any ninja missions. He warned the young man. He still remembered how he had raised his own children, not to mention his estranged son. Kakashi nodded his head as he walked towards the young boy. He knew this would be tough, but he had to do this, if only in the memory of the Hokage, plus one day Naruto should know of the kind of man his father was. And he could always teach little Naruto the things he had been taught as well, passing on the knowledge from Naruto's father through him. Sarutobi slowly handed the small boy to Kakashi as he held him for the first time. Naruto moved a bit, opened his eyes for a moment and then went back to sleep. Kakashi looked at the young boy, and even though his heart was heavy and filled with the hole left in it, looking at the young boy filled him with something. In a way, a part of his teacher would live on in Naruto. Well, now that's out of the way, what do we tell the council? This will get out eventually, you know. The Toad Sage asked his teacher. I'm not sure, maybe we can tell only the elders and keep it secret by law. Only people of Hornin or higher rank could know, but maybe keep it all secret, and the young boy's legacy and his task as jailer only to be known to us in this room and to him when the time is right. Sarutobi would have to think on this. He just hoped that when the time came, he could think of the best way to deal with Naruto's secrets, but in the meantime he would let Kakashi try his hand at parenting, and he wished the boy luck. He would need all of the luck he could get. Chapter 2, What Have I Gotten Myself Into? The crying was the first thing that woke the tired Umbu ninja up. Kakashi groaned as he got up from his bed. He still had on most of his uniform. He had been so tired that he had just crashed onto his bed. Even his mask was still on, but then he usually slept with it on anyways. It was on for so long that sometimes he forgot to take it off when he showered. But now the crying of Naruto woke the young ninja up. He sighed as he rubbed his tired eye and went out from his room. He was still living in his apartment. It wasn't that big a place, but then again, he hadn't needed a big place. Sure, he still had his parents' old house, but after what happened with his father killing himself, he just couldn't live there. Although he knew that when Naruto got bigger this place wouldn't be enough and he might have to move back, Kakashi knew he could always sell it, but it had been in his family for 2 generations. He made his way to Naruto's room. It had just been a small room that he used for storage, but he moved all that stuff out to make room for Naruto's crib and other things. He flicked on the light, blinded for a moment as the sting of the sudden light hit his eye. He blinked and saw the scene. The room was white, but he did plan on fixing it up a little with more color at some point. There was the crib, a changing table and a few other things. He walked over to Naruto's crib and looked down at the young boy. How can someone so small have such a powerful set of lungs? He asked himself as he picked up the crying infant. He rocked Naruto gently, trying to soothe him. It had been 3 months since that night he took Naruto in, and he hadn't had a decent night's sleep since. Sure, he had gone days without sleep on missions, but this took things to a whole new level. He swore they should let ninjas take care of infants for those sleep deprivation training. There, what is it, little guy? You hungry again? Kakashi couldn't believe how much the little guy ate. It was kind of unbelievable someone so small had such a stomach. He couldn't smell anything, thank goodness, so it wasn't for changing. He carried Naruto into the kitchen as he went to get a bottle. The little blonde boy was dressed in orange. For some reason he seemed to like the color. Kakashi always had trouble dressing him in other colors. He would throw fits for some reason unless it was orange. He got out a bottle from the fridge and used a small jutsu to heat it up. It was just a simple heating one used when you were stuck out in the cold. Mainly you used your chakra, the life energy that all ninjas trained to use, to mainly make a blanket of warmth around you. He just used it on his hand until the bottle was nice and warm. He adjusted Naruto and the baby eagerly fed off the bottle. There you go, he said, gently closing the fridge with his foot and walking him around the apartment. He found out that this seemed to calm him down. Man, I know I said I'd look after you, but who knew this was so hard? Makes me glad for all those babysitting rank D missions I had as a kid. He shivered at the memories of those missions. They were not pleasant experiences, but he at least got something useful out of it, and he was putting all of that to work. Naruto eventually finished and Kakashi started to pat his back to burp him. He heard the sound and smiled, but then froze, feeling something warm slithering on his shoulder. I forgot to put a towel on me again, didn't I? He asked little Naruto, who giggled. Kakashi knew that he had some spit up on his shoulder now. He had been tired and forgot to put that damn rag on now and then. He found something else out. Getting that stuff cleaned off a ninja uniform wasn't easy. He sighed and proceeded to walk around with Naruto a little, rocking him. It took nearly an hour for the boy to sleep. he had a lot of energy in him and he was always looking around the place. Kakashi had to watch him as he liked to crawl and explore and usually get into trouble. Kakashi had to make sure that he kept all his weapons well out of the way. He had to stop Naruto from picking up and trying to play with the shuriken that he had dropped onto the floor at some point. It wasn't an easy life, that was sure, but he did it, plus he knew that the boy needed him as well. Who else would look after him? The new Hokage III, after taking back his title, had decided that only the council will know of Naruto and his past as well as the Umbu and Jonins. He still remembered that day as well. A week ago, Kakashi was holding Naruto as he walked into the Hokage's office. By now the entire village was slowly getting back on its feet. The dead had been buried and there was a mass funeral for everyone. He had been there with Naruto. It was only fitting, after all Naruto had lost his parents that night. Even if the child didn't really know it at the moment, or maybe he had, for some strange reason Naruto had been uncharacteristically quiet during the whole thing. Kakashi went into the office as the Hokage had told him to arrive. He walked in, seeing the third back behind the desk. He now wore the old robes he had used to wear before he had stepped down. The white robes with some red trimming, the large matching hat with the symbol of fire on the front of it. Hokage-sama, Kakashi bowed to him as much as he could. "Ah, Kakashi, I'm glad to see you. How had Naruto been?" The old man smiled at the little boy who looked up at the strange old man. He reached up with one hand to the pipe that the old man was smoking. "Hokage, if you'd please," he said, nodding his head to the pipe. The old man smiled and put it out. He had one given up on that with his own boys, but with them all grown up and moved out he had taken it up again. Kakashi nodded his thanks. "Well, Naruto is a handful, and I swear the amount of energy he has is frightening. I never knew a baby could wear you out so much so fast." The old man gave a small laugh, remember his own experiences when he was younger. "Well, the reason I called you here was to tell you about my decision. I had to tell the council about Naruto, his full heritage as well as the demon sealed away inside of him." Kakashi sighed. "Didn't go well, did it?" "No, it didn't." He rubbed his temples from the headache that he got from that. "At least there were a few of the more reasonable ones. The Hyagas seem to be not opposed, but they aren't exactly happy about it, but they will not go against the wishes of the fourth. The Abaramis are just as neutral, but I think they're just waiting to see how the boy is before they judge him." That he was thankful for. At least the Abarame clan kept their emotions tightly controlled, but they were very logical as well. "Any others?" Kakashi asked. "A few of the less powerful members will not seem to cause any problems, but there is a large faction that feel that the boy is too dangerous to live." This was led by the current head of the Uchiha clan. "But I gave a law that stated that they were not to discuss this outside of the council. This is an S-class secret punishable by death. So only the members of the council will know of Naruto and his secrets, only the new heads will be told, and of course all the Jonins and Umbu members." Kakashi nodded his head, listening to all of this. "I have to wonder why you had to tell them at all. He would be much safer if no one knew." The Hokage nodded. "I had considered that, but I also had to consider other things. What if the secret got out? The entire council would be after my head for keeping this from them. Also, we also have to worry about what if one day the seal on Naruto breaks or someone tries to actually remove the damn thing off of him." Kakashi hadn't thought of that, but then again, why would anyone do something like that? No one would be that insane, would they? It would most likely kill Naruto if they broke the seal. Kakashi felt a bit more protective of the boy, wondering what such a thing would do to the little blonde boy. "My old student, the one that taught your sensei, he's heard of things. Naruto is not the first of his kind. There have been others before, but mostly they had been killed either by the demons they hold or by others." The old man looked very serious in that moment as he looked at Kakashi. "There have been whispers of something brewing, rumors mainly that he was a bit concerned over. There has been lately someone or more than one person looking into people like Naruto. Vessels for demons. In fact, an ancient scroll of such things was said to have been stolen recently from the village of Mist. So, there could be a threat, but he's still looking into such things, as he is looking for other things that are of concern as well. Oh? What else is going on? Kakashi asked. You are aware of Orochimaru's new status as a missing nin, correct? He asked, and Kakashi nodded. Well, one girl Anko is missing. She was training under him and disappeared soon before we found out about what Orochimaru was doing. The old man sighed and closed his eyes, still remembering the horrors he had found in that basement room. To think one of his own students capable of such evil things, he felt like he had failed his student in some way. We are searching for her, but we don't know if she knew of his status when she left or not. So my other student Jiraiya is looking for leads for him as well. He leaned back into his chair feeling very tired. This year had been a very dark year, it seems. We will endure just as we always have, Hokage, Kakashi said honestly, and that made the old man smile just a bit. But I am worried that not everyone will obey your law about Naruto. Yes, they may find ways around it, but I felt you had to be told, just in case you need to be ready for anything. The Hokage said to him. Present. Kakashi was putting Naruto back into his crib after the baby had gone back to sleep. He pulled the orange blanket over the sleeping form and placed his favorite toy next to him, a small orange fox. He wasn't sure why Naruto had an affinity for the animal. Maybe on some level he knew about the demon fox within him, or maybe it was a slight influence from the demon itself. He hated that last thought. The boy was so innocent, and the thought of him being taken over by that monster actually scared him. Kakashi had lost too much to lose another, and in this time, Naruto was becoming an important part of his life. He worried about the little boy, but when Naruto laughed or smiled, it actually made Kakashi happy. Happier than he had been in a while actually, plus little Naruto had an infectious laugh. To think that people could hate such a baby was just stupid to him. He gently ran his hand over the blonde hair. I promise you I'll protect you, Naruto. Across the city, over in another district of the city, in a large area known as the Uchiha district, in the center of it was the main Uchiha home. This was where the main branch of the family resided. It was a very large estate on par only with that of the Hyagas, who were also the rivals of the Uchiha. In the main house, in one of the larger rooms lit by candles, sat many members of the council. At the head of the table was the leader of the Uchihas, Fugaku Uchiha. So we are all in agreement then? The head of the Uchihas asked those around him. He was a tall and powerful looking man. He didn't show emotion and looked to be the type to demand perfection from everyone around him, especially of his clan. He had gathered those that knew that the Hokage was a fool to allow the vessel of the demon to live on. It didn't matter if it was the will of the fourth to keep the boy alive, or even if he was his son. Personally, Fugaku never really thought much of the fourth Hokage anyway. He had seen that man before he became the legendary Yellow Flash, and he wasn't impressed with him then. So I was little consequence to him if the son of the last Hokage were killed or not. Although we can't take direct action, that doesn't mean that we can take overt actions. He looked at the faces around him. All had eyes of hatred in them. All of them had lost someone precious to them to the demon's attack, and it was a powerful motivation. What can we do then, Fugaku-sama? One of the men asked. We can't make it obvious, or else the Hokage would send the Umbu after whoever was behind things. Another said. Yes, we need someone to take the fall. Another agreed. Yes, we need to find someone with no affiliation that will kill the boy without hesitation, and if possible, take their own life to prevent them from talking if captured. Fugaku said. But the problem is finding someone like that, plus with his new father around, it will make things even more hard. Yes, everyone knows of Kakashi, he even has your blood limit, the Sharingan. One of the men stated. Fugaku slammed his hand hard into the table. Never speak of that in my presence. The fact that fool of a friend of his gave him the pride of my clan shames us all. To think that someone outside my clan uses the Sharingan is an everlasting insult to me. If that fool Obito was still alive, I'd kill him myself for what he did. But you raise a fine point. Kakashi is not to be taken lightly, and now he's an Umbu himself, so that makes things even more complicated. What do we do then? One of them asked. We wait. We find someone that we can use against the boy, but we also might have to wait until the boy is older. Kakashi is only an Umbu to stay close to the boy, but once he's old enough, I know that Kakashi would go back into the field. He's that kind of ninja, and he'll take on missions that will have him leave the village, and then we can easily strike at the demon boy. Fugaku said to them all. We shouldn't wait. He should be killed now. Someone spoke up. You fool, there is another reason to wait. He snapped at the man. The more time that goes by, the more relaxed security will be around the boy. Plus, any accident that can happen to him would be more plausible. If something were to happen too soon, the Hokage would know that it had been set up to kill the boy. No, we wait for the time is right, and then we will strike. Soon after that the meeting was over, but the leader of the Uchiha clan waited patiently. Then a door slid open and a young boy of about 5 with dark hair and matching eyes walked in. He held an impassive face just like the man across from him. What are your thoughts to this attack? He asked the young man. I think it is wise to wait, father. He said calmly to his father. Although personally he didn't see the point in all of this just to kill a little boy. It was beneath his family to hide in the shadows like this and plot such a thing. They were the most powerful clan, and here they were acting like some weak and pathetic group of cowards. It sickened him to think that his proud clan would be reduced to such a state, but he showed nothing of this. His father nodded his head. I want you to keep an eye out in the ninja ranks for anyone we can use. Most likely when someone is given the level of Jonin and learns of the boy's true nature, we will find who we need. Itaka bowed his head. As you wish, father, but if you don't mind, I need to prepare. I have a test tomorrow and I wish to be ready for it. His father nodded his head and Itaka bowed as he left the room. He walked through the large mansion and heard the crying of his little brother. He passed an open door and saw his mother there picking up the newborn and trying to soothe him. Itaka knew that his father had rarely seen his little brother. That actually bothered him a little. He knew that his father saw that the firstborn son was the pride and future of the clan, but that was not necessary to ignore another. His little brother was an Uchiha after all, and he held hope that his little brother would prove to be strong like himself. But only time would tell of this, and he hoped that his little brother wouldn't disappoint him like so many of his clan had. He moved on silently as his thoughts turned back into his clan. He knew his clan was supposed to be the most powerful in the village and he was the pride of their clan, but the truth was he felt he was nowhere near his limit. He trained and pushed himself to new levels and always tried to reach the next level. His power with the Sharingan was matched with no one, and yet he still had not obtained its full power. He knew that there were untold of levels of strength and power for him, but he just needed to be shown how to get it. He gave a mental sigh as he got ready. He put those thoughts aside as he thought about his test in school. Although he didn't know why bother, he was the best in his class after all. No one was even close to where he was in his skill or intelligence, just as it should be since he was an Uchiha. But still there was no challenge for him there at the school, no one to push him to his limits or beyond. He needed to become the strongest there was in the clan, maybe even the world, but he was not finding anything to help him reach that goal here. Everyone praised him for his hard work, but he never saw it as truly hard. He wanted a way to surpass everyone and everything, to be a true ninja. He wasn't sure how, but he was sure one day he will find his way to becoming the most powerful ninja in the world, and when he found out how to obtain the full power of his Sharingan, no one would stop him. Chapter 3, What a Handful. Naruto age 4. Kakashi was sleeping in his bed when his alarm went off. He groaned and slammed a hand onto the evil device as he pushed the covers away. He yawned and reached for his mask, putting it on and getting up. He looked at the time and groaned. It was one of the things he hated about being an Umbu captain, and that was getting up early for team meetings and reports. If he had known that, he wouldn't have taken the promotion 2 years ago, but it offered him more time with Naruto and better pay. That was something he needed. Having a kid was expensive, that was for sure. Plus the fact that Naruto ate what seemed like his own body weight at times. Where it all went he had no idea. After showing and changing into his Umbu uniform, he looked in on Naruto's room. It had changed over the years. Gone now was the crib and other baby things. Now the room held a toy box, a bed, and a nightstand with a lamp and clock next to it. There was a small shelf of books that he used to teach Naruto to read, but mainly for him to read to Naruto at night. It was strange how in the past 4 years he felt less and less like a guardian and more like a father. He had few memories of his own father, and the fourth was the next best thing he had, so he had been playing it mostly by ear. He had asked a few others in Umbu for advice who had children, and thank God for that, or else he would have been totally lost. But looking at the small boy who was sleeping soundly in his bed, holding the fox toy that he had as a baby, he couldn't help but smile. Unfortunately it was breakfast time, and he knew that Naruto could be hard to wake up, and the Hokage had a mission for him, so he wanted to say goodbye before he left. He left for the kitchen and cooked up some ramen. It was odd how Naruto loved the stuff. He had the same love for it as Kakashi had for his Ika, which he kept locked up so Naruto would never find them even if he was still learning to read. After the ramen was finished, he sat down and then took a breath. "Naruto, the ramen is ready," he called out. He raised a hand and ticked off 5 seconds with each finger. As soon as he made a fist meaning 0, Naruto burst into the room and jumped onto the chair, wide awake and still in his orange PJs. "Cool. Thanks, Daddy," he said, smiling happily as he dug into his food. Kakashi smiled behind his mask. Naruto had been calling him Daddy since he could talk, and in truth he liked it. Although Daddy had been his second word, his first was ramen, which he said for an entire day non-stop. So no wonder he loved that food. He watched as Naruto just inhaled his meal. "Naruto, I got to go to work today. You think you'll be okay for a bit? I have to arrange for someone to look after you before I leave," he told him. "'Kay Daddy, is it going to be Iruka again?" he asked. "We'll see, Naruto. Now finish up and wash up, okay?" The young genin named Iruka had taken care of Naruto a few times, but at the moment he wasn't sure. The Chunin exams were coming up and Iruka was going training since he was going to enter this year. It was nice, but he was one of the few people he trusted with Naruto. Over the years he had been aware of certain things when Naruto was alone out on the streets. Like potted plants would fall and he just managed to pull him out of the way of them, or a cart that just happened to lose control nearly crashing into him. One night he had known someone had snuck into his home, and looking around he found a few black widow spiders in Naruto's crib. They were random and spaced out, but he knew that someone or someones were targeting Naruto. He told the Hokage, of course, but the only thing he could do without evidence was to increase Umbu patrols around Naruto just in case. This of course lessened the accidents, but still they would happen. Some even Kakashi weren't sure if they were just accidents or if he was just getting paranoid. After making sure Naruto would be okay for at least a few hours, he realized that he was running a bit late. He guessed he wouldn't be able to visit the memorial this morning again, so he just would when he got back. It was the least he could do to honor the memory of those that he cared for after all. He put on his Umbu mask, that of a wolf, and made his way to the Hokage's office. He found the man at his desk trying to once more at battle with his arch-nemesis, the dreaded paperwork. He smirked behind his mask, both of them actually, since he still had on his regular one under that. Well, 3 if you counted the other mask under his usual one he sometimes wore. "Hey, sorry I'm late, Hokage-sama, an old lady needed help crossing the street," he said, taking off the wolf mask. The old man gave a grunt trying to hide his smirk. Haytake always seemed to have an excuse. "Well, now that you're finally here, I have a mission for you and your squad. Tell me, you remember Anko, right?" "Oh yeah, the girl Kai's team found." Kakashi said as he remembered her. She had been taken by Orochimaru a few years ago and after about a year turned up alone on a beach. She had been starving and dehydrated. In fact, if the Umbu team hadn't found her, she might have died after a few more days. She had been taken care of, but her memories had a lot of holes in them. She sometimes got flashes now and then of something, but nothing much beyond that. He also knew of her mark, the dark seal that Orochimaru put on her. Kakashi was learning about seals lately, and all Umbu were told of the seals and to keep an eye out for anyone else that had them. "How is she doing these days?" he asked him. "Pretty good," he gave a small smile. "That first year back was really hard on her, but she's turning out to be a great Chunin. In fact, don't be surprised if in a year or so she makes Jonin. But she's also remembered something lately. She had another of her flashes, and I've been trying to help her remember. She thinks she remembers an area where Orochimaru might be or is. So you'll be taking her along to see if you can find anything." Kakashi nodded. "Got it, but there is another thing that I need help with. I need someone to look after Naruto, and well, I would like someone that can take care of himself. Lately I've been worried that someone is getting a bit bolder and harming him." The Hokage nodded his head. He heard everything Kakashi had told him, and it was worrying the old man. That was why he had looked up someone special for looking after Naruto. He was a bit unorthodox even by Konoha standards, but he was still one of their best. "I already have someone planned for that. Guy, you can come in now," he called out. The doors opened and in walked in a Jonin with the usual vest, but he wore bright green spandex suit and had the strangest haircut. It looked like a bowl cut of some kind as he had pure black hair. He grinned with unnatural white teeth. Kakashi thought he could actually see them shine when he smiled as he gave him a thumbs up. "Ah, so this is the mighty Kakashi, the famous copy ninja," the strange ninja said to him. "I'm Mato Guy, sometimes referred to as the Green Beast. I'm sure you remember me, after all we were on a couple of missions together." Kakashi looked at him for a moment in silence in a thinking pose. "Nope, never heard of you, and as odd as it is, I don't remember you either." Guy nearly face-planted at that as Kakashi turned to the Hokage. "Is he on any medication that I should be aware of?" "Not that we know of," the third said under his breath. Guy was right back up to his old self in a second, clapping a hand to Kakashi's back. "Don't worry, your youthful child is in perfect hands. If anything happens, I'll do 1,000 laps around Konoha on my hands with ways on my legs." He did the same flashing grin and thumbs up again. Kakashi suddenly had a very strong sense of doom at the moment. Later, Kakashi was with Naruto as he was watching kids program on the TV happily. "Now Naruto, be good to Guy, okay?" "Okay, but can I get Iruka next time? I really like him, Daddy," he said over his shoulder. "Yeah, he's a good young man, but behave with Guy, okay?" he said, knowing how Naruto could get, especially if he got too much sugar. The times he managed to eat too much of that even made him more hyperactive. It was insane how such a little boy could get that hyper. He swore with all that energy he could run up and down the Hokage monument several times before getting tired. "Daddy, how long will you be gone?" Naruto asked, a little worried. He hated it when his dad had to leave. He knew it was his job and all, but he didn't like it. His dad always knew what to do. He remembered when he was scared of the monster in his closet. His dad had come in asking him what was wrong, and he told him about the monster. The next thing Naruto knew, his father threw several kunai into the closet in the blink of an eye. "There now, Naruto, if the monster is still in there, he's not happy, and if he comes back, just remember, any monster that wants to harm you has to get through me first." After that, Naruto slept peacefully in his room, not afraid of any monster because he knew his daddy would protect him. So he always worried that something might happen when his dad was gone, but then again his dad was strong and brave and he wanted to be just like him. Kakashi thought about it. "I'm not sure, but I promise I'll hurry, okay?" "Okay, Daddy." He smiled broadly at his dad, and Kakashi couldn't help but smile back. The doorbell rang and Kakashi went to it. He opened it up to see Guy there giving one of those bright smiles. He pulled him in before he could start going on again about youth and stuff like that. Now look, I'll be gone for a few days, so take good care of him. There's a list of things you should know on the fridge, and careful not to give him too much sugar, and you do remember what you were told about Naruto and what to watch out for, right? Guy nodded, getting a bit more serious at that last part. He knew that certain people weren't too happy with Naruto and that anyone could be after him. He did honor the late Hokage's wishes, and besides, to him anyone that would harm a small boy was the more unyouthful people that deserved no respect from him. No worries, Kakashi, I'll see to his safety and you can trust me. He flashed his grin and gave the thumbs up. Kakashi just sighed as he went to introduce Naruto to Guy. Outside his apartment, however, two shadowy figures were looming across the street. Both wore cloaks that hide the ninja garb under their vestments. They were a couple of missing outlaw ninjas that had turned from their village. They had been hired to sneak into this village to assassinate, of all things, a young boy. Even among missing nins, some still had some standards, but these two were not one of them. What do you think, Ichigo? His partner asked. I think we should wait until Kakashi leaves Renji, he said to him. There was no way that they wanted to fight Sharingan Kakashi. When they were told who was protecting the boy, they found out the reason why they were being paid so much. Although their employer, whoever it was, had made sure there was a way in and out for them, and that their mission was timed so that Kakashi was far enough away, it was still a little unsettling. They heard the stories and they didn't want to fight the Jonin, so they would wait until he was a long distance away. That way, if they were found out, at least they had a good head start in getting the hell out of there. Besides, the one in the green didn't look like that much of a threat anyway. We wait and get ready, Ichigo. I want you to shadow them and take the boy out from a distance with your poison. I'll set up a backup plan just in case. Renji told his partner. After that, Kakashi left his home and made his way to the gate, hoping that he wasn't too late. When he got in range of the massive gate, he could see two of his fellow Umbu there, with a girl a little younger than he was, with purple hair pulled up at the back of her head. She was pretty looking, although the scowl on her face and how she looked a bit pissed sent him a few warning bells about her. Damn it, where the hell is he? I thought Umbu were supposed to be the elite ninjas of this city, and you'd think your captain would be on time for once, Anko said, taping her foot. Unfortunately, he's has trouble with the time apparently, one of the Umbu said. He knew all too well that their captain was always late. It was a running joke that Kakashi would be late for his own funeral one day. She then noticed an Umbu walking up towards them. She guessed this was the one they were waiting for. Sorry about that, I got lost on the road to life, he simply said to them all. Anko raised an eyebrow. Lost on the road of life? What the hell does that even mean? You got a lot of nerve, buddy, she growled out, getting into his face. The least you could do is show up on damn time, and I don't care if you are an Umbu, I'd still kick your ass. Duly noted, Kakashi said in a bored tone, although he could feel the killer intent from the young woman. He made a mental note not to piss her off any further, or he'd have to see just how good she really was. Fine then, let's go before I forget anything important, she said, and Kakashi noticed the slightly more serious and darker look on her face. He had no idea what it had to be like living with giant holes in your memory, although sometimes he wondered if he would be better forgetting certain things as well. Hey, take residence. Guy was one of the strongest ninjas there was. He had the patience of a mountain, strong like an oak tree. He had seen hundreds of battles, seen a lot in his young life, but at the moment he was wondering if he could handle such a thing as a hyperactive 4-year-old. Hey, why do you wear green? Why is your hair like that? What are those big things over your eyes? Do you know my daddy? He's the strongest and bestest there is, and I'm going to be just like him. Are you strong? Can you show me? Can you, Mr. What was your name again, mister? All of this within seconds came from young Naruto. Guy had to admit the flames of youth in this boy was like a blazing inferno. He had never seen a child with so much potential energy. Oh Kakashi, you have a fine boy. The flames burned brightly in him. I hope to one day I too will find a boy with flames that match him, he would make the perfect student. He grinned at the boy and Naruto was surprised by how shiny the tall man's teeth were. I'm Mato Guy, little Naruto-kun, but you can call me Guy, he said to him. Okay, Naruto grinned at the tall man. So Naruto, what do you want to do? Play ninja. Naruto suddenly ran off, leaving Guy to search for him. For such a small child he was fast, and Guy went into Naruto's room but couldn't see him anywhere. Guy was surprised that he could hide so fast, but then again, he knew the home better than he did. Guy went around searching the room. He opened the closet but only saw a mess in there, nothing but what looked like a pile of laundry that hadn't been cleaned yet. Guy sighed at such a sight. He would have thought Kakashi would have taught young Naruto better than that. He shook his head and went searching for the young boy. He looked in a toy chest with no luck, then he knelt down to check under the bed. That was when his sense of danger hit him. Like all experienced ninjas, they had learned to trust their gut when someone was watching or about to attack. He heard the feet running and turned just in time to catch the little blonde boy as he jumped at the man. He launched himself into Guy's chest as he caught the giggling boy. I got ya! He shouted out, and Guy looked across, seeing the disturbed pile of clothing. He smirked, knowing now that the boy had used that to hide himself. Guy had to admit the boy showed some talent, at least for surprises. He got up and placed Naruto on the ground as the young boy gave him a huge fox-like smile. Guy couldn't help but like the kid. He was full of the fires of youth. Well, my youthful young man, what happens now that you got me? Guy asked. It's your turn to hide now. Then prepare yourself. Guy decided to show off a bit and threw down a smoke bomb. Naruto looked with wide eyes as the smoke cleared and Guy was gone. Then he grinned as he started running around looking for him. He ran out of the room and Guy, who was on the ceiling, smiled down at him. He was using his chakra to stick himself to the ceiling, and when Naruto left, simply and silently landed. He turned around, going into a thinking pose, as he thought about Naruto. He had heard how the great Kakashi had taken in the child, and he had to admit he had been surprised. He never pictured Kakashi as the family type. But he seemed to be doing a good job, although Naruto could be a bit tidier, but maybe he was expecting a bit much from a 4-year-old. He wondered what Naruto would be like when he started his training. That was when he felt a small body wrap around his leg. Got ya again. He looked down, surprised at the boy had come back so quickly. How did you? Daddy uses that trick too, mister. He smiled up at Guy, and the older man just had to laugh. They continued to play for a bit until Naruto got a little tired. While taking a nap, Guy went over the list that Kakashi left. It was kind of simple, usually the do's and don'ts, although what was underlined in red was, "Don't feed him sugar," in big bold letters. Guy was wondering if Kakashi was being a hen mother or just trying to warm him. He heard the sounds of small footsteps and saw little Naruto rubbing his eye with a yawn. Then he heard the young boy's stomach growl. Hungry? He asked him, and Naruto nodded quickly. So what do you want for lunch? Ramen. He yelled out happily. Okay, but it's a good day out, we shouldn't waste it inside all the time. How about we go outside? I've heard of a place that is supposed to have the best ramen in the city. Guy smiled, seeing how huge Naruto's eyes were now. The little boy loved ramen, but if there was a place that served the best, he couldn't wait to go. He ran over to Guy, hooping up and down, asking to go there. Guy smiled, seeing how suddenly awake he was, and gave a small laugh as he put on his vest. When they left the apartment, the two ninjas that had been waiting finally saw their target. As the two walked on, they started to shadow their prey. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.